What's up, y'all? Hope y'all doing good. I'm Anthony K. Thomas, and welcome to Wrestling with Rumors. Welcome, everyone. So, before I get into everything that will be this week's episode of Wrestling with Rumors, as I say every week, every rumor that I am about to read is exactly what it is. It is a rumor. We speculate as wildly as we want, but until that rumor is proven true, fact, we see it happening on TV. It remains what it is, a rumor. So with that, let's get into everything that is a new episode of Wrestling with Rumors. On top of his agent refuting the fact that he's shooting a movie, as had been mentioned elsewhere, PW Insider says Drew McIntyre's suspension was a planned creative move designed to add depth to his current feud. Now, as I'm reading this, on this past week on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre only been gone for he hasn't even really been gone that long. You know, he did what he did last week, the following week on SmackDown, and then he was gone. Got into a heated argument with Nick Aldis, and then Nick Aldis said he was suspended, and then that was that. But here he is, the following week on SmackDown, and he has joined up with the Vision in what is War Games, as Paul Heyman did mention to Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis agreed that he could pick anyone from the from the roster, and he did. He picked Drew McIntyre, and now Drew McIntyre is back. I think all of this, as far as, because there's no suspension, right? It's clear that there's no suspension if he was suspended, but Paul Heyman brings him back, not even really been suspended for that long. So I feel that it will add depth into their feud, and this thing between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, as far as how does it end? I feel like it either I don't think it ends on an episode of SmackDown. I feel that there's not going to be like a singles match at Survivor Series, because Cody Rhodes is in War Games as well. They'll continue this feud inside War Games. But as far as like the third and final match that Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre will have, I think it's being saved for next year. First PLE of the year, which will be the Royal Rumble, and that will be in Saudi Arabia. So we're probably looking at a Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes 3 for the WWE Championship in Saudi Arabia, Royal Rumble next year. It's possible. I would say Saturday night's main event, but because of what Saturday night main event is going to be December 13th, how it's not only focused on John Cena's final match and whoever that will be, it will probably be Gunther, but it's also about main roster talent taking on NXT talent in an exhibition. So that's what that's going to be about. So I don't really feel like, besides possibly the Intercontinental Championship being on the line, possibly at Saturday night's main event, December 13th, with it possibly being Gunther, who will face John Cena, who will be the one who will probably take that Intercontinental title off of John Cena. That'll probably be the only championship match that happens there, as everything else is exhibition of NXT facing main roster talent. So Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, I see the third match in this rivalry they got will probably be at Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia next year. Self-made Pro claims there are people within WWE who don't want Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes on TV at the same time, unless they can build to another match between the two. Well, that might be a little hard to do, to have them on TV at the same time, if if, and I think it's more on the it's gonna happen, that they're gonna be on the same team for War Games. So I you can have them on TV at the same time and not and not have anything build between them. I mean, if we look at examples, I'll look at an example from my era as a kid, the Attitude Era, and you had someone like a Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, just to name those two, who were on TV at the same time, and there was so much space in between them at times where they were doing different things, but they were on TV at the same time. So you can have Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns on TV at the same time, and they would be doing something different. And you don't have to build into anything. And I feel that the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes thing, we went back to back on that. And the rivalry of those two went for so long that it's been nice to have a bit of a break between the two and just let them do their own thing elsewhere and then come back to it. And then if they come back to it, I think it needs to be another couple of years before we come back to it. But yeah, they could be on TV at the same time and not have to worry about building into another match. Absolutely. Fightful Select says Tony D'Angelo hasn't been seen at the WWE Performance Center of late, and it seems possible they're simply waiting on creative for him. I would imagine that the creative that they're waiting for him is something that will be good for him in the main roster, that they don't want to just throw him in the main roster and not really have anything for him. So if there's anything planned for him, it will be in the main roster, because the whole D'Angelo family thing, that's pretty much done. Rizzo is getting herself right again. You know, she's healing up. She had her surgery. She's healing up from her injury, so she's getting right again. Everyone else is just kind of, kind of doing their own thing. And so when I feel that the next move for Tony D'Angelo is obviously main roster, but as far as creative for him, I think they want something right that fits into his character of who he is, as he was the Don of NXT. So you want something that's the next level of that. Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch are being discussed as possible WrestleMania 42 opponents for Stephanie Verker, says Bodyslam.net. Now, this one I feel is Rhea Ripley. No disrespect to Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is an incredible talent, an incredible women's Intercontinental Champion, a former WWE Women's and World Champion. But I feel that Stephanie Verker and Rhea Ripley, that's it. That's the match. That's the main event match for WrestleMania 42. If it does make main event. If it does make main event. But just Rhea Ripley versus Stephanie Verker at WrestleMania 42 for the WWE Women's World Championship. Absolutely that. Yeah, I would go Rhea Ripley on that one. Fightful Select notes that Desmond Xavier, formerly known as Wes Lee, is not under contract with TNA, even though he appeared at Turning Point. There are creative plans in place for him with the Rascals going forward. This is a great full circle moment for Desmond Xavier, or as we knew him as in NXT, Wes Lee. I feel like this is the perfect example of that, just the heel character of Wes Lee. I didn't feel like him, you know, I didn't feel like that was working for him. Who Wes Lee was before he turned heel, got the dreads, the music that he had before, just the whole vibe of it all. That was him. And even when his tag team partner got released over some BS a while ago, and that got all cleared up, I feel that him finding himself as a singles wrestler in NXT, it worked. As a North American champion, one of the greatest North American champions, I will say. And that whole heel turn, I just feel like they should have kept who he was and kept who he was as Wesley, as the babyface, and just moved him into the main roster and then let him go. Let him go for the Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship, maybe find a tag team partner on Raw or SmackDown and go after the tag team titles, and maybe every once in a while have a moment where he has a shot for the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship, Keeping who Wesley was before he went heel would have been amazing to see in the main roster. But once he got released, which was a shock. That one was a shock and that one hurt. But some time passed, and when he came back at TNA, at Turning Point, he's got the hair back. He's got the whole vibe of who he is back. It just felt full circle, and he's back with his boys. He's back with the Rascals. And even though he's not signed with TNA, I think he's going to sign. I feel like that is coming sooner rather than later to once again be full-time with TNA and then just watch him go. And it was just such a feel-good moment to see Desmond Xavier back in TNA, back to who he was. It was incredible to see. And it was really good. Sources told WrestleVotes that WWE and USA Network have decided to change SmackDown back to 3 hours starting on January 2nd episode in Buffalo, New York. Make up your mind. All right. Both to WWE and USA Network, make up your mind. What are we doing here? Is this a thing where it's going to be 3 hours for a while and then it's going to go back to 2 hours? I mean, last year, this same time, pardon me, not last year, at this same time, in January of this year, SmackDown went 3 hours, and at first it was great, and then it it was just like, what are we doing with the third hour kind of thing? But it was fine. They were trying to find themselves to SmackDown as a 3 hour show, and then they went back to 2 hours, and they were like, okay, we're all good with that. Everything is great. But now, getting this news that SmackDown is going back to 3 hours as of January, around the same time they did this year, I can't help but think now that are we going to go 3 hours until like June, between June and July, and then we're going to go back to 2 hours for the rest of the year, and then we'll just start up again? Is this like a common thing that's going to happen? Or is it permanent now? Or is it going to stay permanent? Are we going to stay permanent 3 hours moving forward? Either way, whether SmackDown stays 2 hours, goes to 3 hours, goes back to 2 hours, goes back to 3 hours. I think with something like this, I'm not gonna be excited like I was at the beginning of the year, because I was excited in the beginning of the year for SmackDown to move to 3 hours because I thought it was great. And SmackDown works perfectly as a 2 hour show. And it got a little weird in the beginning for SmackDown to be a 3 hour show, but I got used to it. I think a lot of us got used to SmackDown being a 3 hour show in the beginning. But now if this is the case and SmackDown as of January 2nd goes back to being a 3 hour show, I'm very curious to see how that third hour is utilized and how time with the men and women in the matches they have is utilized. And I'm really hoping that there are lessons that are learned from the first go around of SmackDown being 3 hours, and that they'll be able to figure out how to utilize time in that 3 hours in matches and in segments. So when January 2nd comes around, we will all see how it looks moving forward. A few things I want to touch on before I call it an episode for Wrestling with Rumors. Let's start with this past SmackDown. LA Knight's mystery opponent was Matt Cardona, or as I should say, once again, Zack Ryder, making his return to WWE, to SmackDown as Zack Ryder. Um, I get everyone's frustration in this, how he was Matt Cardona in NXT, but then when you bring him onto the main roster, he's Zack Ryder. And everything that he built behind the name of Matt Cardona on the independents, and how he was able to keep that name, Matt Cardona, when he came to WWE and did what he did in NXT. But then to feel like you're taking all that hard work away and putting Zack Ryder back on the name. Here's what I will say about that. What I'll say about that is, it's whether it's Matt Cardona or Zack Ryder, he knew exactly what he was doing when he signed this new contract with WWE. He understood that the name Zack Ryder was the name that was going to be used when he signed back with WWE. But I don't feel, and completely understand if you don't agree with me on this, but I don't feel that just because Matt Cardona is now once again Zack Ryder, I don't feel like it takes any of the hard work away from what he did in the independents, what Matt Cardona did in the independents. Because all of that hard work showed and got the attention of WWE, especially when he was doing stuff in TNA. I think all of it got their attention, and like, look at what he's doing. Look how much he's improved since then, and they brought him back. So signing that contract, going back as Zack Ryder. I don't think it changed. I don't think it takes away from the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the long nights, everything that he put into the independents, because all of it brought him back to WWE. That's how I feel about that. And I feel like he's also able to keep some of, like, he still has Always Ready. He still has that tagline, Always Ready, like he did in the independents. I mean, little stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think it takes away anything from Matt Cardona, who's now Zack Ryder in WWE, and how things look going into the rest of this year and next year and on. I'm very interested in it, and it's cool though. It's cool now that Chelsea Green, Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, they're under the same roof. They have the same. They're under. I believe they're under the same umbrella as far as SmackDown goes. So they have the same work schedule. So it's good for them, because they'll be able to see each other a lot more than they have in the past, being on different schedules when he was in the independents and she was in WWE. Now they're both in WWE, so them seeing each other a lot more and having more time together. Personally, for them, that's great. And for Zack Ryder, I look forward to what comes next for him. So hopefully getting a shot at the Intercontinental title and holding it for a lot longer than he did years ago. And I will also say, I think it'd be really cool and feel full circle if he were to have an Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania, and just like at WrestleMania all those years ago, he wins the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 42. I think that would be so great. Just to throw that out there. Joe Hendry has officially signed with WWE. So what was going on here is that from what I've read, is that WWE bought Joe Hendry's remaining time with TNA. They bought his time. They bought his contract, what was left on his contract with TNA, and then got him, and then he signed with WWE. So he got a big voucher from Shawn Michaels. So like, Shawn Michaels is one of the reasons why Joe Hendry was signing with WWE, which is so cool. That was really cool to hear. So I think moving forward for Joe Hendry, he's got a AAA, or as Ethan Page would say, the Triple A. He's got that mixed tag match coming up at Gold Rush with his tag partner Thea Hale. He's taking on Ethan Page and Chelsea Green. The idea of him and Thea Hale winning feels more of a possibility now that he's officially a WWE superstar. But even if he doesn't win, I feel that his time, he'll stay in NXT probably for the rest of the year. At least I'm hoping he stays with NXT for the rest of the year. He might stay with NXT a little bit longer and have a shot at the and once again have another shot at the NXT championship. But I feel that maybe he'll stay with NXT for the rest of the year, and then sometime in January, possibly at the Royal Rumble, he'll be in the Royal Rumble, and then not only will he be in the Royal Rumble, but I think he'll just make that full move to the main roster, and he'll be. I'm hoping it's SmackDown is where he gets his main roster start is on SmackDown, but we will see. But I feel that it was gonna happen. For me, it was never a question of if he gets signed with WWE. For me, it was a sign of when he gets signed with WWE, because the way he was used this past year, he was in the Royal Rumble. He had a match against Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Seeing him, we saw him so often in NXT that he practically felt like he was already a WWE superstar while he was still signed with TNA, with this whole partnership that TNA and NXT have. So yeah, it was the same feeling that I got with Jordynne Grace. Like, Jordynne Grace was always that question of not if she gets signed with not if she signs with WWE, but when she signs with WWE. And she's with WWE and she's with NXT. She's almost main roster bound. Same thing with Joe Henry. That's how I felt. So yeah, this is great for their careers and being in WWE. And in the back of the mind, being a part of WWE, no matter how long you're with the company, whether it's a few months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it is, it's always like a great a great check on the box and a great thing to say that, yeah, I wrestled in WWE for X amount of time, and there were ups, there were downs, but it was great, and I'll never forget the experience and the opportunity I got from it. So, and the exposure you get from it as well. So I look forward to what comes next for Joe Henry now that he's a WWE superstar. And one other thing, two more things that I want to say. First, I want to say that in TNA, that the X division is a very special division in all of professional wrestling. And the matches, the history, the lineage of the X division and that X division championship in TNA and just for professional wrestling is incredible. I mean, you look at the guys that came from that X division and you look at where they are now. When you look at someone like a Samoa Joe, when you look at someone like an AJ Styles and look at how they were in the X division and now look at where they are now in their careers. And then you look at someone like a Leon Slater, right? And he's a young blood, right? He's just getting started, but my God, an incredible talent, an incredible pro wrestler. Man's got a great future ahead of him. And y'all don't have to agree with me, but he has definitely got WWE superstar written on him. And especially that the team that is Leon Slater and Javon Evans, just how they are as a team. And you look at Gold Rush coming up this Tuesday, and they got an opportunity at the NXT Tag Team titles, and they gotta win. They gotta win. They gotta not only to have the history of being the youngest NXT or just any tag team champions. But just to see how they mesh, how well they mesh together as a team and as opponents. I mean, the match they had together, the match they had against each other at Bound for Glory for that X Division title was definitely one of the matches of the year. And hopefully, and I look forward to see when they run that back, because I would love to see that again. But to watch how they are as a tag team and just how well of a well-oiled machine they are, I look forward to see how that match goes. But just that X Division, man, it's special, it's rare, it's an incredible thing to witness and watch as it's evolved over the years in TNA, and just how it's a special division for all of professional wrestling. And one last thing I want to say is politics in wrestling. There are moments in time in the decades that professional wrestling has been around that it's hard, that at times it's hard to escape professional wrestling from politics, and politics, from wrestling. When you look at, obviously, WWE. Obviously, you look at WWE and politics in WWE, it kind of just, there are moments where it's just there, and at times you just don't want it to be a part of it, but it just connects somehow. And I don't mean connect in a good way. For the most part, it's like in a bad way. In the case of AEW, when you look at politics in AEW, it's mostly surrounded around ICE and how Bodie King wore a shirt that said abolish ICE, and how Hangman Adam Page has publicly stated how disappointed he has been and how those ICE commercials have popped up during AEW, while AEW was airing. So, politics there, WWE and politics, especially with Triple H, and how there are moments when you see Triple H behind our current president, and it just like, really? And then even how it was over the summer, how it was talked about how Triple H was at the White House and how he's part of the fitness program they started. Yeah, it's just, and then how there's also been rumors about how the current president might be at Saturday night's main event, how he'll be involved in that somehow. I would imagine it'll probably be in the same way that he was at the Redskins game, at the Washington Commanders game. I almost said Redskins, so that's what they were used to be called. But at the Commanders game, and how he was trying to read he was reading something, and the crowd just booed him out the arena. I mean, he didn't leave; he kept talking, because that's who he is. And I imagine the same if something like that were to happen at Saturday night's main event, where he showed up and then he read something. I imagine the same thing will happen there too, where he'll just get, his boos will probably be louder than Dominic Mysterio's boos. But yeah, politics in wrestling is just, you want to keep them separate. You don't want one to touch the other, even though that there's a majority, there's a fair amount of pro wrestlers, and not just WWE, and not just in AEW, and not just in TNA, but in all of professional wrestling, independent, or just any promotion, there's a fair amount of pro wrestlers, guys and girls, who probably did vote for our current president. And that's their right. It just, sometimes it is what it is, and it's hard to escape it. But yeah, I felt like I needed to bring that up. It probably didn't come out right or anything. I just felt like I needed to at least get that out in the open and just say what feels like the quiet part out loud, I guess. Anyway, I'm Anthony K. Thomas, and this has been Wrestling with Rumors. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can keep up when all new episodes of Wrestling with Rumors drop, which is every Sunday. And of course, my weekly episodes of Rumor of the Day when that drops every day. Go ahead and hit that like button, leave a comment as well. And I appreciate you all for watching, for listening. I will see you all next Sunday for a whole new episode of Wrestling with Rumors. And of course, on Monday for a whole new week of Rumor of the Day. But until then, y'all take care of yourselves. I will see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.